Okay, well, we are really hitting the ground running in 2024. Lucky enough to get Art Label the first time, and now something that I'm personally so excited about. Umbrella Entertainment is here, specifically Max Aboudara and Ben Cook, part of the marketing e-commerce team, and very importantly, some very exciting product development that's coming out. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. So it's Thursday night for me, Friday at about 4 p.m. for you. So extra special that you're doing this when you could be out drinking. Um,
I've got one open, so
okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm drinking a scotch. I don't know a lot about Australian liquor, to be honest. I know Adelaide has a great wine scene. Is there a particular liquor that's made in Australia that you're
uh,
famous for?
I mean we've got some good scotch like in Tasmania.
Okay.
Makes good scotch. Other than that, I mean the one that gets around is Bundaberg, which
The
is
Bundy, the rum.
yeah, it's kind of
Have
gut
some
rock,
of that
but
and then they start fighting.
yeah.
Well, we can do a food and liquor podcast here. Um, So I've got, I don't know if it's gonna be difficult to show, but on my desk here, I've got all of the um, releases you've had so far with OCN. So very excited for this partnership. Definitely want to get into that today. Here's some of them. There's other ones that I've been watching. And then I've got a few, not with me, but I've got a few of the exploitation line that y'all have. I have your Triple Shock box set from Hammer, and then definitely going to start diving in. I placed an order about 2 weeks ago, so it should be landing any day now for a lot of these amazing sets you have. But just on the outset, I want to say I've been following Umbrella for a few years now, and the work you do is just top notch and incredible, and I'm very excited to have you on the show. It's a real treat to have someone that cares so much about physical media.
Well, thanks for the kind words, I suppose. But yeah, it's something that's getting tougher, I guess, for most of the boutiques trying to put out physical media. But there's definitely a nice customer base that's still hankering for it. So it's a
Very
shame when you
passionate.
hear the stories like with what was it over there with Best Buy and stuff,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah.
we've kind of got the same issues over here in Australia where our biggest retailer, JB Hi-Fi, like constantly kind of taking away the physical media sections out of their stores. So
Yeah.
it's a changing market, I suppose.
So we're gonna keep active, keep pushing the barriers a bit and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Well, there's this beautiful trick where if something is coded to Australia and coded to region C, then it's technically region free, right, on Blu-ray players?
Um, I wouldn't say that's the technicalities with it. I think it's more some Australian distributors are more willing to open up their discs. Let's put it like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I believe there was a while back there was some sort of lawsuit to do with the hardware about region locked hardware in Australia, which I think came out that it didn't have to be region locked. But I think that's a slightly separate issue. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's funny the way that information kind of gets spread out throughout the channels. Um, but anyways, um, so y'all are here today. I've been following Umbrella for a long time. One of the main reasons I love the label is I feel like our styles just your curation game is so strong for me. So I definitely want to spend time on the amazing special features, the amazing packaging, but this all starts around the movies, right? And I'm obsessed with the movies that y'all put out. I think you find true gems, whether it's exploitation, some horror that you put out, um, crazy stuff like Top Knot Detective. I love the curation game. So I was wondering, one of my first questions I wanted to ask y'all is that a single person kind of making that decision? Is that a group effort? Like, how do y'all choose the films that you put out?
I think I think it's largely like it kind of comes from like different channels. So
Okay.
if it's the Australian stuff, um, it's about what materials we can find, where we can get the rights from. And our managing director, who's been Jeff, who's been doing it for a long time, he's got a lot of contacts to try and not just source rights, but like actually find the materials to
Mm.
scan and then restore before we put it out. So we're sitting in our boardroom at the moment, but also sitting in this room is about 2, 4, 6, 7 large boxes full of tins of film reel.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just kind of sitting here waiting to be scanned as we kind of go through it. And all they actually came from the director of a movie that we're hoping to put out at some point in the future.
Amazing. It's another Australian one?
Yeah,
It is an Australian
yeah.
one. Yeah, important movie, and that's the case where I guess we've just found those materials, and that's kind of dictated what we're going to put out, because it's like we can't say no to a wealth of materials like that. But in terms of your question about like how we are kind of curating and stuff, and if it's one person or multiple, really it's like just a fun process that comes down to each of our tastes. We all got a little bit of a different taste. So I'll be sitting there and saying like, oh, I really want to see this movie, and everyone goes, oh, does that have a release? And then it just goes down that rabbit hole, and
Okay.
all of a sudden you're chasing a movie, and someone's calling someone, and someone's finding out, and someone says, oh, we've got it. And it just started by someone saying, oh, I like that movie and we should look into it. So it just comes down to everyone's taste, and everyone really has slight quirks with what they like, but that opens up the brand to a lot of different films and genres and stuff like that. It's not just too much of the same.
I love that. It sounds like it's very collaborative, which is a fun place to work. How
Yeah,
big is the office by chance? Is it like 10 employees, 20? Like what's the size of the umbrella office?
I say 15.
We had a bit of growth in the last year or so. So
Amazing.
yeah, we're there now. But like compared to other boutique labels, Umbrella doesn't just do physical. So we do digital, but we also do theatrical and help produce movies as well. So it's kind of that's where Umbrella's a little bit different to some of the other boutiques. We have our toes in kind of quite a few different pies there. So it's we've got a team that does just kind of theatrical as well. So and a team that does digital as well. So yeah.
That's actually a perfect segue. So one of the questions I had is that most Americans, I believe, know y'all either because they're obsessive like I am and have been buying from Australia for the last few years, and now can buy through, Vinegar Syndrome and the OCN partnership. But as I was doing some research, you kind of uncovered a lot of what I thought was very interesting. So there's these different arms within the company, and umbrella kind of it's a nice term because it is kind of like an umbrella for a lot of different types of entertainment, right? So it's a very specific, or it's a name that has actual meaning. Would you say that is physical media sort of like the stepson, or is that like the main driver? Like what is umbrella mainly, and then kind of what are all the different arms of it?
I think that's an interesting question because I think it's probably changed a bit over the last few years. So
I reckon we just pick up strength to strength, like as in you'll have a time where the theatrical is just like killing it. Like Talk to Me came out with us, and that was just humongous, and theatrical goes crazy there. And then we have the VOD stuff, and sometimes Hudson, who's in VOD, will just say, this, I've just done this package and it's just unbelievable. It's just so many films, and it's like, wow, that's like a big achievement. And then Max releases something like Super Mario Brothers, and that just goes crazy. So it's just kind of everyone has their spotlight a little bit, like I wouldn't say that there's any leaning or anyone is maybe up or down. It's sort of across the board. Everyone gets their moment to shine.
Yeah, like a lot of the movies that when Ari, who works with the acquisitions, when he tries to chase them, a lot of the movies he tries to chase all rights for. So it kind of ends up being able to be used at all different parts of the business. So we might get a re-release theatrically, and then we might do a physical conjoined with like VOD release as well.
And that's like something funny is that we also do some streaming now. So we launched Broly, our Australian streaming service, really dedicated to our catalog. And fun thing is that we everyone gets to share the films a little bit. So like a film will come in and it's like, okay, it has to go to theatrical first, and then VOD will get it, and then, or VOD and physical probably at the same time. And then maybe, you know, because I work with Broly a little bit, maybe a few years later, 3, 4, 5 years later, it might end up with me. So that's kind of fun as well. I'm kind of like, oh, is that, you know, can I use that? Or maybe later, you know.
Oh, interesting.
Broly's definitely our startup. That's the one that we're still, you know, getting off the ground with, but everything else is just going pretty smooth.
Yeah. And well, I guess with the VPN, anybody can access Brawley, but you have to be in Australia to access it today, right?
Yeah, so like the rights are for digital streaming rights, AVOD, advertising video. Yeah.
Okay. There's ways to make that accessible around the globe, but we don't have to get into all that. That's exciting though. Is it okay for anybody who's listening in Australia? Randomly, we have a lot of listeners in Australia, which is exciting. So there might be a lot of people that actually can access that. Is it, brawley.com.au? Is that kind of how you get there? Or?
Yeah, jump straight in. It's yeah, just get an account and you can start watching straight away. And yeah, we release new stuff every 2 weeks on there, and we got curational stuff, you know, a whole bunch of catalog items, some exclusive things. Like, you know, there's a real wealth on there that I think we're waiting for people to really discover, I think. But
Okay.
got to get aggressive as well.
I think some of the, like, you know, there's some cool stuff on there, like you know, I think you just put up Terrifier 2 and All Hallows Eve. So like they haven't even been out that long realistically when you think about it. They've only been out for like a year, and now you can stream them for free.
Cool.
And then you've got all the genre horror stuff. You've got all like the dedicated Australian, but the things that I think are kind of fun that are getting uploaded are it's technically SD content, so it's not high enough quality that we can put it out on Blu-ray, but it can't be watched anywhere else. So you can really discover stuff that is like deep Australian TV shows or cuts and stuff like that. That just, if it wasn't for Broly, there wouldn't be anywhere.
We have a project we're kind of working on that. If we come through with it, it will be some Australian TV from the 70s that has some episodes haven't been seen in 50 years. Like it's
really,
you know, kind of a like a proving ground on Broly where we can try some different things. We can go, you know, find these old things that maybe most people might not care about, but there's, you know, it doesn't cost us anything to just put it there and get those, you know, however many people that are just dedicated to it. It you know, it just makes their whole year. Like it's brilliant. They can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of like lost media in a way, and we can actually put it back out there.
So that brings up two kind of concurrent questions. I'm trying to think of which one to go through first. There's an interesting story about Monty Python where I know that's not Australia. I'm coming right back to Australia, but that where John Cleese said that if they hadn't decided to buy the reels of film, BBC was going to record over it, and all Monty Python episodes would be lost. And I'm curious. I just got me thinking about other countries and their attitude towards preservation. What's the general attitudes towards preservation in Australia? Is it something that's been focused on over the years?
That's I can't really answer that properly, I would say, because I haven't been like behind the scenes in the TV industry over time.
I can comment on that show that we're looking at. There's a lot lost. There's there's hundreds of episodes lost.
Wow.
So, you know, I think that traditionally probably we've run into some same issues as you know, Cleese there with Monty Python. I'm sure that there's plenty of lost media in Australia, but you know, part of our mission is really digging deep and finding that sort of stuff. So you know, if you saw our Houseboat horror release, you know, just things that I think literally the story is that it was just before my time, but the story is that the son of the director came in with the materials, best materials sort of surviving from, you know, when his father was working on the film, and, you know, just hadn't been seen since release really. And maybe VHS, and the team here just did great job on it to get it into good condition. It's still, I think it was from a digibeta, like it was it was shot on video, but just that kind of goes to show like we are really I can't sort of comment on historically Australia as a whole, but we're pretty passionate about bringing back those things from the sometimes from death almost. They're almost
Yeah.
lost.
That's what it sounds like. There was an interesting comment that I'm trying to think. The directors of so this is Sons of Steel, and I was watching some of the special features, and the directors made an interesting comment. So there was a TV show, a long-running TV show that played at midnight, and it was essentially cult films around midnight. And they said they kind of grew up on watching these cult films, like Boxer's Omen would just be playing on a Saturday night at midnight. Is that still running?
Not to my knowledge.
I mean, we're in the physical media space, but like it's hard to really. I mean, when was the last time you watched free-to-air TV?
So that's really the thing, yeah.
Like,
No, I'm just curious. I was just fascinated by this because, like, growing up in the States, and actually, I actually grew up in Indonesia as well for a little bit of time, so I kind of close to y'all. But there was nothing like that. There was no access to cult cinema, just casually playing on public TV in the
I mean,
90s.
I would say the closest is probably just like
I was
SBS
going
in
to say
general.
SBS.
So like,
SBS, that was the thing. Yeah, that was the channel you mentioned.
Growing up, you would get on the SBS around about midnight, and you'd just see some things that you would never see anywhere else.
like a lot of foreign movies, but like European, like
art house,
or naughty movies as well. So like when you're 14 or something, you're like watching SBS at 11 o'clock or something.
If you're not familiar with it, most of the time SBS is news based and really educational and things like that. And then occasionally when the gets a bit dark outside, there's some crazy things, and that can include cult cinema and stuff as well. And so I think a lot of people in Australia probably did grow up. If they were discovering cult, you probably wouldn't have got it through the main outlets. It was kind of those more independents and the fringe outlets that were really pushing it.
I hope SBS is still screening that stuff.
I would imagine.
We sell some of our stuff to them for on demand, I think, don't we?
Yeah, that's the thing. They do buy a lot from us, so they're probably still showing the all the cult stuff that we're passing.
I mean, if they're buying our ones, it's something weird in those movies, I'm sure.
Well, that's a great transition into Brian Trenchard Smith. So speaking of cult, I just watched this one, Man from Hong Kong. Separately, one of the episodes of the podcast that so there's two parts of the podcast. We do these interviews, and then every other week we do a film discussion where we recommend films that the other two hosts have to watch. And I did a Brian Trenchard Smith week, so I did Dead End Drive-In, and then Escape 2000. But I think it's in Australia. I think it's called Turkey Shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm just I'm obsessed with this guy. I kind of joke with him. He's the original BTS because he was cooler way before these Korean kids. But you seem to have a very unique relationship with him. So have y'all put out? I don't know about the majority, but you put out a bunch of his films at this point, right?
Yeah, not all, but a whole bunch. Yeah. I wonder if you had a chance to check out our podcast we started recently. We did a whole episode with Brian Trenchard Smith, and he goes into great depths on a bunch of his films. Did you get a chance to see that?
No. What's the name of the podcast and which episode is it? Because I will do that tomorrow.
Yeah, Sunburnt Screens, which is we just started at the end of last year, and we got this great host, Alexi Toliopoulos, a massive film nerd, and we just went and got as many Australian directors as we could, filmmakers, all sorts. And so on those, we've got one with Brian. We've got an episode with Spirit Brothers and Sean Byrne and Enzo Tedeschi. We've got some great people on it. Anna Kokonos. These are all really, part of our catalogue.
Amazing.
Some of our biggest films, these are the filmmakers behind them. And coming up, we've got, I probably can't name drop, but we've got probably two of the most influential Australian directors coming up, I think, especially for our catalogue. But but that Brian Trenchard Smith episode, I think that's number 3, and it's just most of the episodes have a few different people, but we were very confident to have Brian's episode just be him because he's just a wealth of knowledge, and he just goes and goes and goes. You'll hear he covers off everything. I think he goes into depths about Man from Hong Kong and actually financing that film as well, which is a great story.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, he's a great storyteller, anyways.
Mhm.
I've listened to at least 2 of his commentaries, thanks to y'all. And yeah, he's just a great storyteller as well. And he's one of the ones that you're investing in very heavily on these new collectible packages, right? These new collector's editions. So maybe Max, this is a good time to kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So, what's the genesis of this brilliant idea and an exciting new kind of arm for y'all, physical media wise?
So when I kind of got brought onto Umbrella, I mean, looking at how the markets had kind of been changing, and I guess the way how people consume movies as a whole have kind of changed over time. So previously, obviously the only way you could watch a movie, some of these movies, was to buy them. Like they may not have had a theatrical run, they may not have, you may not have been able to screen on TV or anything like that. So the only way you could buy a movie was, go and actually have the physical copy. But as digital's kind of come along, and it's really, in the last couple of years, I think people have just kind of completely switched to viewing their movies digitally, whether video on demand or, transactional, just whatever it might be. Which means the concept of a physical item has kind of changed what it means to people who actually still buy it. So it's not really just about watching the movie anymore. When someone buys a movie, there's a reason behind why they've decided to buy that movie. They want to dig into it deeper. It speaks to them in a way or something. And I kind of equate it to how people buy books still, in a way. So people buy books because it's a bit of a representation of who they are. So they like having it on the shelf. They want to, they might buy a book about the book, like the author or something like that, because they want to dig into it more. And that's kind of where these physical items become part of that package, because it's a bigger, like, it's bigger than just the movie in that sense.
I love you for saying that. When people ask me why I collect, I say 40 years ago, nobody would ever ask somebody who has a large book library why they collect books. Like, no, that was just assumed that some people just had a library of books, right? And that's kind of, I think it's transitioning to film a little bit. So I'm completely in line with what you just say. And I have, so again, the curation game behind what you're doing. Coming in, I have King Kong Lives, The Kids, Hercules Returns, and Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a pre-order for Dead End Drive-In, The Chaser, which is super excited about, and Bully. So first of all, thank you for releasing these movies in beautiful conditions.
Yeah. Like, and that's when it comes to like the collector's edition. Some people, you occasionally read people online say like anything will get a collector's edition. And I feel like that's really a negative way of kind of looking at it, because for someone out there, that's an important movie for them. Just because you don't see it as, an amazing movie doesn't mean that someone doesn't love that movie and wants to like have a full treatment, basically,
Of the ones I just mentioned, I can't imagine people saying that for any of those, though.
No, they're like, well, I think Hercules Returns. Like,
okay, fair enough. Maybe so.
But like we did the restoration, we did the restoration work on that one, and it's even in Australia, it's a small movie that was popular at the time it came out, but that's a long time ago now. But it's also it's not an action movie. It's kind of it's a parody-ish movie.
Yeah, it's a comedy, but it is really important because even the history behind Hercules Returns, it's a hilarious movie. It honestly is so funny. people hold it in really high regard. But even like the local history, it's just filmed in it's filmed in the Astor Theatre, which is actually just like one of our most historic theatres here in Melbourne. And I still go there all the time to watch movies, and they show them on the old film reels and everything. It's fantastic. So it's filmed in there. It's got shots outside near Luna Park in St Kilda. It's got for a little bit at least David Argue and Bruce Spence in it, and some real Aussie names that are just like absolute icons.
Yeah.
And it's based on an actual sort of comedy troupe that was doing Melbourne shows where they would dub old school films, Hercules being one of them, turned into Hercules Returns. But there's a lot of culture, a lot of Melbourne in there, a lot of people who remember it really fondly. So one part of it is getting that out to American people who have never heard of it and saying how cool is this? Here's a little bit of a slice of Australian culture. But then half of it is just like, we have people message us and they're like, thank you for bringing that back. I have not been able to watch that for so long. And so that really makes us, pretty happy, I guess.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. I think it was one of those movies that like it skipped DVD.
Yeah.
So like that's how long it'd been since I had an opportunity to purchase it. And then on the, as you said, with the other movies like Bully and Chaser, like because Umbrella is one of the main independent distributors in Australia, so we kind of have both ends there where we're distributing like these quite well-known movies for Australia, and then we're also doing the restoration work for these small movies that a lot of people may not have heard of. Yeah,
that's actually a pretty good segue. So are y'all doing the restorations in-house?
So we work with a lot of really talented local partners who restore a lot of our stuff. So it's a whole web of people who are really passionate about this stuff. We work a lot with Mark Hartley, who did Not Quite Hollywood. If you've seen that documentary, he's just he's the guru on Ozploitation. I think he coined the term even. And so, he helps find some materials. A bunch of different people help find materials, go and work with really talented companies who restore it all, and just go through all the hoops to make sure that it shines at the end of the day.
Amazing.
there's a whole technical aspect for like scanning and restoring materials that you kind of want to leave it in sometimes to the experts who can know the proper care and have the right tools to do it.
No, very, very few boutique labels have their own in-house kind of scanning and restoration. So I was just curious more than anything, but it makes complete sense. The other thing I was speaking of some of these releases that are coming out, one thing I think is very exciting and kind of interesting about Umbrella is a lot of the commentaries for a lot of the movies, that 70s, 80s, 90s movies that I like, don't have the director on it. Either they're not interested in doing the commentary, so they'll bring in an expert in that topic or whatever. But with y'all's movies, I mean, like the directors are there, they're present, and they're engaged. Is that an intentional effort to try to reach the filmmakers when you can, or are they just excited to show Australian films and excited you're putting them out? Like, how does that work? Because it just seems like there's a very high percentage of movies where you're actually getting the director in there and really talking about their films.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of, especially Australian directors, are probably really proud of their work, and they know that we have a bit of a international audience. So I reckon it's a good chance to share their work and share their vision and really dive deep into it. That's from my perspective, at least. I think it's a bit of pride in getting that Australian content out there into the world, and so and as well, you're saying like a few people in the business are very connected. So they, Jeff, the managing director, just knows everyone. I couldn't think of an Australian director that he does not know personally and has some sort of story about. So he it's all like very good relationships around between us and a bunch of filmmakers. So we're always in touch with people who are in our catalog. I do a lot of social media, and I'll just be DMing different directors, different filmmakers, just saying how's it going, that sort of stuff. Do you want us to send you anything? It's always pretty collaborative.
Just so we generally, you got to try, and sometimes it comes through, and sometimes it doesn't quite happen.
Well, release number 3 from the Vinegar Syndrome partnership is Spirits of the Air, Gremlins of the Clouds. I mean, that's just a good example. That's Alex Proyas' first film. He could have very easily said no. He's a pretty big time director, right? But there he is, right? Just talking about the film and the experience and how excited he was, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's similar to our podcast. I reached out to a bunch of people, very, like you said, well-known and talented people, and the response was just great. I didn't have to, say, here's what you get out of it or anything. So many people just came back and said yes on the spot, with no return. They just want to get in there, talk about their work, and share the word really about what we're kind of trying to do in Australia film as a whole.
Yeah, we're not just spotlighting, I guess, the movies, but like the people involved. So something that we've started trying to do with like new releases, like Australian genre new releases, is including a little booklet, which the directors or producers of the movie actually help put together. So you kind of get more of an insight of their process and why they may have done certain things or behind the scenes. So like we started it with, I think the first one was Godless. And then we've got what's the next one?
Well, we can say it, yeah. It's gonna get announced next week.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. Time Addicts.
Time Addicts. Yeah.
So,
no way, that's awesome.
So just part of like that is that these are new releases that some of the other team have been heavily involved in, really close to the producers and the filmmakers, and we've been lucky enough to get them super involved in the release, where they're writing the whole booklet, if I'm not wrong.
So like, and we haven't received it yet, so we don't know what's in there yet, but it's just that's their opportunity to kind of speak about the movie to people directly, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's something we're pretty like putting an emphasis on coming up in this next few months. Even we'll have a lot of fresh Australian films as well. Really, really talented young filmmakers making really cool stuff that our audience seems to really love. So we're taking putting a lot of emphasis on that coming up, and aside from all your regular scheduled programming with cult things and everything, I think the slate is going to be really full of stuff for everyone. It's going to have something new, something old, and everything in between, every genre. So that's our kind of, I think, our focus.
Okay, so thank you for bringing me here, because this is something I was curious about. So there's a little bit of a resurgence in Australian film, I think, internationally right now, right? In a kind of a big way. Talk to Me made $92 million in the US. I mean, that's not nothing.
Big number.
Talk to Me, which I think most people don't realize, Umbrella had a hand in helping produce. So
amazing.
I think that's a special one for us to see it doing so well.
I know that Jeff and Ari were involved from very early stage before filming, and so they were there all along, which is really cool when I found that out, because that was that's been in the works for a long time even. But I think that's a big thing for the company is supporting these local productions, and there is a resurgence. I was hearing recently, and it didn't occur to me, but there's so many horror movies and really great filmmakers coming out of Adelaide, which is traditionally, not one of our big capitals, but all of a sudden, the Rackarackers, but, Jennifer Kent, Alice Mal McKay, who we've got on the podcast as well, really young filmmaker, maybe 18 years old, already a wealth of stuff under a belt and has, deals in America with Shudder and things like that. Like this resurgence, people are really picking up on what we're putting down, I think, and hopefully Umbrella can kindle that, keep the fire going as much as possible.
What is it? Bird Eater got picked up at South by Southwest.
Yeah,
is that right?
Bird Eater's one to keep an eye out for. It. We had a bunch of things playing at Myth. Bird Eater was fantastic. We had You'll Never Find Me, which is sort of doing the rounds still and is a really great movie. We had Late Night with the Devil, which is, for a minute there, I think it was the highest rated horror on Letterboxd, just things like that. And that was shot just really, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from here. So, I think it's all happening at once, and we're seeing a lot of great films coming through. They're getting picked up by American festivals and streamers and distribution companies, and that's really going to be fundamental, because I think if it stays in Australia, it will only get so far. Once it reaches that audience, it just picks up and it just keeps going, and all of a sudden people are switching on like, oh, Australia's doing something in this genre space, and hopefully we can be involved with that.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is the thing. I'm very glad that America and Europe are discovering this. But just going through your catalog, maybe we can spend a minute pulling people to certain titles, because Australia's been doing this for a long time. And I hope that the success of Talk to Me causes people to go back and find films like Undead, right? Because holy cow, the imagination in this movie for this to be, and especially when you start digging into the behind the scenes and how much money they had and how much they had to pull for free to create a freaking alien invasion and a 100-foot wall and do it all with essentially like $100. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but like they almost had no budget. Like it's an amazing movie. It reminded me a lot of Peter Jackson's early stuff.
Like Peter Jackson, people tie it to Sam Raimi as well.
Yeah.
And thing, and that's the Spirigs are just they got there so quick, as in they had that small budget. They, like you said, if you listen to the behind the scenes and stuff, they're doing stuff in their bedroom on old computers that just hardly handle it. And you've seen the effects there for what they had. They're absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's mind blowing, and hopefully people are taking that trip backwards. And you said, Undead, and it just goes back so much further. Even I think the story kind of goes as that, there was a bit of a lull in the 60s, and then the government just said, we want this film thing to happen. So they just started funding, people say anyone, right? And all of a sudden it's this melting pot of crazy films from, the 70s, the exploitation and the new wave and, all of that. And then you've got Peter Weir, and you've just got all these filmmakers doing crazy things. And it just, I think it probably did dip a little bit, probably after that boom. And then, now you can kind of get that feeling that maybe it's coming back a little bit.
I mean, going back so that was 2003, I believe. Going back to 1988 or 1989, Sons of Steel. Like, I just feel like if anybody has, there's that whole category. I don't like to use the term "so bad it's good" because I actually enjoy the movies, but there's that whole kind of category of people that are always trying to discover wacky shit. Like, this is one of the first ones I'm gonna point them to now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's definitely a crazy movie. Yeah. A lot of stuff happens in that movie.
It's constant.
Even got little musical numbers thrown in there. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. There's this little kind of micro genre called vanity projects. I don't know if y'all use that term, but there's a few projects that fit under that, and this one to me is a perfect example of that. Just
self-funded,
going
just
for broke. Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes when that kind of stuff happens, that's where some fun stuff can happen because they're not restrained in any
Oh
way. It's
yeah.
just outpouring of their own head onto a screen.
Yeah, you don't want to know what's in their head sometimes, but
You're gonna see it, that's for sure.
but you're gonna see it.
They're such time capsules as well. Like
Mm.
the thing I love about watching some of those old Australian movies is you just get a feeling for the time and the people and the location. Like they're so, I don't know, they're so distinct when I watch them. It just comes through. The real the culture just really seeps through.
That's one of the things I really quite liked about Talk to Me.
Yeah.
Is it didn't like shove it in anyone's face that it was Australian, but it just the whole thing permeates as Australia. Like like when you're
Yeah.
in Australia and you're Australian and you watch that movie, it just feels like
It feels
like normal.
Yeah, I'm in that sort of age bracket still, and of the characters, and it kind of feels like I've been here at some point. I didn't
Yeah.
have the possessed hand, but I think I've literally sat in that room.
Yeah, like the couches or the house party. Like it's like
Yeah.
it just rings true. And then
yeah,
but the interesting aspect with Talk to Me is when you take that and then you export it overseas, everything for overseas feels alien slightly. So like it has that little edge, like the kangaroo scene in it. It's
Yeah.
like that feels weird to people because it's like some people may
Mm.
not even seen a kangaroo
yeah,
before.
but it's so
properly.
common to
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
I know someone in Adelaide quite well, and she was saying like I'm pretty sure I've been in that house. If it's not that exact house, like a house very much like that. So that's awesome. And then even a few years before, Babadook did a good job international. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been this kind of upwards trajectory, right? So that's exciting. Okay, so that's a pretty good intro to Umbrella. So the one thing that I'm curious about is obviously I mentioned Vinegar Syndrome a few times. It's very easy for Americans to buy through the partnership, but you also have a very good e-commerce website. I have to say, I buy from a lot of, yeah, good job. Is it better for you? I know it's kind of tricky to say that because you have partnerships and all that, but is it better for you if people buy from the web store?
I mean, yeah, of course. You're buying direct from us, so there's it helps. It just helps fund stuff more. And we of course also through our website we have editions that we don't sell anywhere else. So like all those collector's editions, we kind of just do through our website. But yeah, doing it directly through us allows us to also like know our customers a bit better and cater towards them. And when you know your customers better, you can kind of work what products are working. So like what might work for VS might be different to what actually works through our web store. But when you buy through our website, it allows us to gauge that interest a lot better. So I don't even know what kind of data we get from VS to understand what's kind of working on that end and how that.
Yeah, it allows us to have our finger on the pulse, really see the spikes, see, even from a marketing perspective, just see how what I put out there is paying off. I say I go out there with a bit of information or something, and then you see that feedback straight away on the website. So it just helps us sort of contextualize everything we do. But yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, OCN is a distributor, so we're essentially selling our products at a wholesale price that then gets sold on VS. So
Sure.
cutting out that middleman can.
But yeah,
can be beneficial.
I think it's anyone out there who's maybe buying those VS ones. I think maybe people might have the perception that it's hard to order from Australia, but it's not too hard. It's I think VS is a great gateway, and where basically if you're only familiar with VS, it's like we're doing that and more over here. So definitely I would encourage people to come over to the web store and have a squiz around and see what's there.
Like via OCN, I think is
Yep.
yeah, and VS it's a little taste of Umbrella,
Yeah.
I suppose. And
Yeah.
of course, the only things that we can sell through OCN are movies where we have US rights for, world rights for.
So that Australian content.
Yeah, so it's mostly the Australian stuff, but not sometimes it's not even all the Australian stuff because like some of the Australian stuff we don't actually hold world rights for. So the only way you can kind of see the full package is to head on over and to the Umbrella shop and check it out. I like going back to those collector's editions, like some of the wackier stuff that we've put out, whether it's like t-shirts or like we did a Hawaiian shirt for our Yankovic story.
Yep.
Custom design Hawaiian shirt, like it's the kind of stuff you only find.
I think I've probably started just at when you were taken off with this sort of thing. The collectors would have been like nearly a year ago, and I just had to meet whoever was doing it. It's some of the ideas that come up are fantastic, and then Max has to go away and make it work, but he seems to always pull it off. Somehow. But it's fun. You can just sometimes I might throw an idea at Max, but I think most of it is from you, right? Like I think
I mean it's just about listening, I think, as well. Sometimes throwing stuff out to people and seeing what comes back, like whether they think that's a good idea or not, and I think it's the same with any creative process. You've got to throw a few things at the wall until something really kind of seems right.
Get a
and
few
sticks.
samples.
Yeah.
Like we did the talk to me hands. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, of course.
Went through a few samples there before kind of finalizing on that model,
design.
I suppose, that design.
I'm just waiting for news reports of people getting sucked into it and having those experiences. I'm hoping it works.
People got to sign it all first, before
this. And we're doing fun things there. I got a tattoo artist to draw all over one and do a custom design, and I've actually got to promote that more. But then I reached out to someone else she said actually had sent me the draft pictures doing nail technician, so she's doing some nails to put on the Talk to Me hand, like all custom.
Wow.
Just things like that. I think we try to think outside the box a bit in all aspects of the company and do something a bit different.
Yeah, well, it's fun. I mean, you also have, I mean, the 90s had a few things, but really Anchor Bay, once they came on in the early 2000s, they kind of set the bar pretty high for creative editions for DVDs, right? Blue Underground, and there's a company, I don't know if they ever made it to Australia, there's a company called Fantoma that did a lot of wacky stuff. They did, I actually randomly have this because I finally got an upgrade, but this was an old coffin that they put out back in 2000, 2001 for the Coffin Joe trilogy. So yeah, it's also, I don't know, I'm jealous of getting to play in your shoes because you've got a lot of historical data to kind of pull from and see what people have bought and what sells well and stuff, which is, I don't know, that's fun for me. I'm a little bit of a data hound, so that stuff would be fun for me. But it's working. I'm assuming they're selling great because people love collector's editions.
Yeah, I think that they're doing well for Umbrella. And it's just kind of keeps growing and growing, I think, in that aspect. I think like movies are kind of we try to have fun with movies. I know that like they're a serious piece of art at times, but I don't think that everything needs to be like quite dry, I suppose. And like you can leave that to Criterion that they can do like the somewhat dry releases and like
that's the thing. We've got to find our niche because like even everyone's a bit of a physical nerd in the office as well, and not shy to buy from other brands and have our own favorites in the US or UK. But like if I want my hit of some art house, I know where to go. Some really really highbrow stuff, I know where to go. And so hopefully if someone's thinking, want a hit of something, you know, a bit more out there, a bit more fun, a bit more just like off to the left field. Hopefully they know where to go, and that's one of our, like, you know, one of the stops is Umbrella. So, you know, we have our fans, and we have our, to some extent, niche. I think we're always looking to expand a little bit, and we don't want to be anchored down to one thing.
We're Umbrella, right?
Yeah,
we
exactly.
kind of welcome all genres a little bit underneath that. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, we definitely want to play in our own space and have fun with it, and not sort of try to, you know, go off what, you know, not necessarily what other people are doing. You know, we're just trying different things.
Yeah.
Well, it shows in the releases that, I mean, that I've seen from y'all. Everything from, you know, you have, I don't think these are Australian, obviously, but you have this Hammer set, this beautiful Hammer set that was released. Or you can go find some amazing exploitation action movies, right? Or comedies, like parodies. That Top Knot Detective is a great parody, kind of satire. So, I mean, I see, I don't know, though in my head, that when I think of Umbrella, I think of like, if I kind of have two parts to my brain. I'm a Gemini, and I'm very true to that, even though I don't know how much I care about astrology, but that part is very true for me. I have two very strong parts in my brain. So if I've just seen a bunch of art house movies, I crave to go to Umbrella to find something fun and just easy to watch and engaging, and like, you know, like I get to go have fun for a while.
No, I absolutely agree. I have that Vega Syndrome Lost Picture show set. Did you?
Uh-huh.
And that's my palate cleanser. When I've had a bit too much highbrow, I go straight to that. And
That's great stuff.
part of, you know, something I really like about Umbrella doing the marketing is, you know, each release, I sit down and watch the films we're putting out before we release them, and that's just always an experience. And I just know we're going in the right direction because I'll sit down and watch these films that, you know, a lot of them I haven't actually even seen yet. I mean, there's so much there to watch, and so sit down, watch them, and just, you know, a lot of times really enjoy them, come to the office, have something to talk about, you know, really throw it at Max, say, holy, do you know this, you know, this and this. And it's just like a great experience of, you know, watching the film, realizing this is, you know, a lot of fun, really great film.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guys had probably picked it before I even came on board. A lot of this stuff is in process for, you know, a long period of time. And then I know, you know, okay, I'll market this with confidence. People are going to love it. And that seems to be the case basically every cycle. I just go, yeah, okay, I can see that this is going to be fun and people are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, there's definitely something about watching a movie and then like going away from it and like taking it in and then trying to create something out of that as well. So like whether it's like you're like becoming a proponent for it in social media, like no, this is an awesome movie. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
or like,
my job is pretty easy in that respect. I rarely ever have to trick myself into thinking something's good. I just sort of, even, you know, even when something, like you said earlier, is, you know, almost in the category of so bad it's good, or, you know, just like B movie, it's easy to fall in love with them too. Like, it's never hard to come around to a movie and say, oh, this is the, you know, all the cool things about it. And I'm a little bit further back from the process than you, so I can still have that really fresh enjoyment every time something new comes out.
Okay.
I'm sure you work on them for a long time beforehand, and maybe they wear on you a little bit more.
Sometimes like it'll be you work on it so long and you realize that you talk about a movie and it's only really actually just come out because you've been working on it for 3 or 4 months. Like, it might be a couple of months before it even goes for announcement. And then it's like 2 months before it actually comes out. So it's like that's a whole 4-month period there where you've been like thinking about this movie, and I might be working on a physical item or the book or whatever else that is around it. And then it comes out and there still might be some stuff that you kind of you're playing around with. And it's just it's quite a long
process for a movie, and I luckily I find ways to always enjoy, and you know, I think in some ways people, you know, I'm passionate about film outside of work, and And I think people in all walks of life think that maybe if you're too close to something, working on it for too long, you can maybe lose your passion a bit. But it's just, we find ways to always keep it up.
I think it's easy with film. Like there's always something
always
different. There's
easy.
always something like out there that kind of
Yeah.
tickles your fancy at the right time,
Well, speaking of Australia, do y'all ever reference a list called They Shoot Pictures? Don't they? Do you know about that list?
Yes, I
So,
do.
so he's it's created by an Australian guy. Bill is he's from Australia, and so I've always felt a connection there because I reference that list every time I write a review. But I think it's up to 22,000 movies that have showed up on some critics' top 10 list and have just been kind of aggregated to show up on like the best movies ever made. And like
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. Like I use that stat a lot now of like there's 22,000 movies that have shown up on a top 10 list. That means there's another 100,000 million that are not showing up on lists. Like it doesn't end, right? There's not like, okay, I've seen the movies.
And that's what we're fortunate for is, first of all, yeah, like you can never see every movie. No one's ever going to see every movie. There's always something out there to
Nor,
discover.
nor would you want to.
No, you
Like
wouldn't
I'm
want
sure
to.
there is some stuff out there. You're like, I don't want to look at that. I get it away from
But
me.
yeah, it's good for us because if there was only 100 good movies out there, we wouldn't be in business because everyone would be flogging them to death. I think we can still very often go out there and say, we had one recently. We looked at a movie, we said that's a damn good movie, and then we looked it up and no Blu-ray release,
Yeah.
no coverage, hard to find, and it's just like there's too many movies to get through, so we've still got a lot of things to discover as a
It's
brand.
great.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Um,
Never.
a couple of things to synthesize the conversation, because in my mind, what I heard from y'all today was a couple of things that jumped out kind of exciting. One is that you're having this opportunity to highlight a lot of young Australian filmmakers. So I'm assuming that over the next few years, that's one thing that might come to physical media as well, is a lot of these kind of new, like modern Australian films.
Yeah, I definitely hope that, the at the end of the day with like new releases with small movies, like it becomes a bit of a numbers game. So
Mm-hmm.
I 100% hope that like by us giving them the support and that the customer base will kind of appreciate that and pick up these movies so that they can watch them at the best quality they can basically after they do their theatrical. So um, that purchasing physical media directly helps the filmmakers as well at the end of the day, and gives them a clear sign that people want these movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that you've got those 3 points of call: theatrical, digital, and physical. So without all three of them doing well and getting that response, it kind of becomes hard for filmmakers to see that people do want these things.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that continues to happen. Ben, what's the name of the podcast again? Just so everybody hears it twice.
Sunburnt Screens.
Sunburnt Screens. I hope everyone listens to that. I will definitely be subscribing as soon as I get out of here.
We've got some more episodes coming up. We'll have another batch of drops. So, and then hopefully we'll go do some more. So continue it on. It's just a good chance for people to discover things. It's kind of in partnership with Broly a little bit, where a lot of the things discussed on the show are available on Broly. So for my hope is that an Australian audience who can sit there and listen to it and then go discover it all on Broly, and it's just like a holistic experience that they can discover films, get a bit deeper into different filmmakers and different genres and things like that they might just been sleeping on. That's really the key. So yeah, if anyone has access to both, that's the best way to do it, is to watch a bit on Broly, listen to a bit on Sunburnt Screens, and marry the two.
Perfect.
It's
Perfect
just another
segue.
point of like providing support for the industry and like kind of
that's
shining
it.
a spotlight on all these people within film in Australia.
Amazing. That's wonderful. And then obviously, as long as it's financially viable, you're going to keep producing physical media. I hope that's for a very long time. I certainly collect Uh, is there anything you can talk about? Either I'm okay more generally. I'm not asking for titles, but as far as direction and physical media, are y'all going to dig deeper into some of the collector editions? Like what's kind of coming up?
Um, well, I think we've got two titles that we can probably mention.
Mm.
So the first one, I actually just watched the movie last night, which is The Raid. So
No shit.
yeah, so like I know that I think it recently kind of got a steel book in the US, but
Mhm.
we've been in pretty good contact with
Yeah,
director
Gareth Evans. Yeah.
Gareth Evans to get his support and like pull together a fun collector's pack where we can include all these other bits and pieces that hopefully if it
Yeah.
all comes together
Amazing.
and that's such a after watching it last night, I've got my head in the game now to how we're going to pull it all together. But yeah, it's such a fun movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Of
Yeah,
course. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
of
Oh,
course.
it's amazing.
And the
That'll
other
be a day one purchase for me. Go ahead.
the other one is Caligula.
Caligula. So yeah,
We kind of haven't officially announced yet, but
no, we
it's
haven't.
been doing the rumors. And so that's going to be a super fun one. I don't know if we're going into the details yet of what's in the pack, are we?
I think I think we can because you said this is coming out Feb 2nd. Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. It'll drop February 2nd. Yeah.
We should
Yeah.
drop the whole pack
So
the day before.
yeah, it's just going to be a wildly fun pack. If you know the history of Caligula, it got taken away at screenings. The cops showed up and busted him, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
away. So you couldn't see it for a long time. It was banned here and there, but recently they did a recut of it. I don't think it has one frame the same as the original cut. It's a totally new film, and we're gonna have both that, the new one, 4K, gonna have the original,
Yeah,
and then the totally uncut, uncensored. Right? Is that the
I
word?
believe so. There's basically it's going to be three cuts.
No
So
shit.
Yeah.
And the ultimate cut, as Ben was saying, is it's all alternate camera footage or different takes to tell the story.
Yeah, and we screened that recently theatrically, kind of for the first time in Australia, and we got some free tickets. And I went down with James, who works here as well, and it was just an experience. It's
Is
honestly a great film, and it's wild start to finish. I haven't seen the other cuts yet. That's again, like I get to discover that through us releasing it. So getting closer to the data, we'll probably watch those and just have probably the weirdest, wackiest experience from
um
another.
have have you ever seen by chance Fellini's Satyricon?
No, I
No.
haven't. I do quite like Fellini, but I haven't
Okay,
got to.
so
Oh,
if you have a chance, watch those as a double feature. It's a wild double feature.
yeah,
Uh, Caligula definitely has more nudity and sex and all that, but Fellini's might be just as crazy.
yeah. I know Fellini started going to some interesting places.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's amazing that you're releasing Caligula because Severin sort of teased people saying they released Caligula, but it wasn't. It was like a sequel or something. It was like a different version of. It wasn't
Uh,
the movie at all. It was like a different thing that just
Untold
happened
story,
to.
something. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So the fact that the actual movie is coming out and three editions of the
yeah.
movie is amazing.
You can also bank that Max is going to put some interesting stuff into it as well. It's not going to be just the three movies. It'll be
Yeah,
a bunch of different
there
I'm
things.
there are
hope.
a bunch of interesting materials. A bunch of interesting materials that have been kind of dug out of the archives that we'll be trying to include
Uh,
in the pack.
yeah, I've heard rumors of a mold of Helen Mirren's vagina. Is that right?
I no comment.
I'm just kidding. Uh, I won't make you comment on that. Um, well, that's probably the best place to end it is a mold of Helen Mirren's vagina. No, I, I mean, I wanted people to meet some of the voices. I would say faces, but it's audio only, so the voices behind Umbrella. I think y'all have been fantastic representatives. Is there anything that I haven't brought up by chance that you want people to make sure they know? Definitely, buy from the web store, whatever, wherever possible.
No, I think we've gone around a lot of
I think
topics.
so.
Yeah.
Touched all bases.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
really. And yeah, I think definitely the rest of the team. I think James was on Serial at Midnight at one point. I can't remember the podcast, but Ari's been on a few as well. Ari, the GM, and Jeff has been on Serial at Midnight as well. So all the faces are out there on the internet, and long talks with them. A lot of good information. So I think me and Max, I think this is our first.
Yeah, well, we did that stream where it was basically my hands.
Did a live stream for
voice.
about 3 hours not that long ago. I'm sure there's probably some things on there that we spilled the beans on, but
yeah, we had the, I don't know if you saw the June box set that we put out.
Yeah.
That was that was a wild
the full
idea.
brick set.
So it's like a plastic brick set where you build a sand dune, a dune worm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we did a live stream of building that. And
No way.
just talking,
just chatting.
Film.
So that's our kind of our only two things. But yeah, like I said, it's not too hard to find a bunch of the really core players at Umbrella doing, talking about different things online, and so I'd definitely say go research and see if you can track down a few other faces from Umbrella, because me and Max are only a small slice of who's here and who's doing what. So I would definitely say see if you can find become a bit more familiar with all sorts of characters that we have.
Sounds wonderful. I'll take that challenge. And in the meantime, I appreciate y'all coming on and making time for this. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your Friday.
Thanks for having us, man.